Hi, welcome to Animation Salvation. This is a special presentation. Today I'm going to be talking about burnout, the causes of it, and how to avoid it. We'll be talking about how to increase our ability to animate by increasing both our education of animation and our experience in it. We'll also be talking about our capacity to animate. How do we increase our speed and the quality at the same time? We'll also cover energy. How can you get into and stay in the zone? And finally, we'll cover building a training program for yourself to ensure that you continually improve in your animation skills and abilities. So let's get into it. I'd like to talk today about our capacity for animation production. And this applies to everyone, whether you're just studying animation at home, whether you're learning at university or college, or whether you've been doing it professionally for many, many years. We all have a cap. We all have a capacity for animation production, and that's as high as we can go. And that is how much animation we can produce in a given amount of time. And looking at my my professional life especially, I realized that I've actually worked harder over the last 5 years than I've ever worked before. And this is because as my ability increases, so does the demands put on me. It's just like computers. As the computer hardware gets faster, we actually demand more out of the computers. Well, guess what? The same happens with you as an animator. As you become better at animation, more is expected out of you. Whether you move up the ladder and you actually have to supervise other animators while still doing your animation, or whether you just get handed higher quality scenes, that are more complicated, and you have to do more work that way, more will be expected of you. And I realize that I've worked harder over the last 5 years than I've ever worked before. And these are, beyond the 10-year mark as an animator. And looking into the future, things were actually going to get worse, not better. They were going to get harder. Deadlines were going to get tighter, and quality levels were going to rise, and my responsibilities were going to be larger. And so thinking about this, how did I cope in the past with all of these demands? Well, I'm sure nobody's a stranger to this one. I used to pull all-nighters to meet deadlines. I'm sure we've all done that. And, I've slept at the office for as much as a week at a time to try and meet the production needs. In fact, on one production, I trained myself into what is called polyphasic sleeping. And for those of you who don't know what this is, I actually stopped sleeping 8 hours per night, and instead I would take a 15-minute nap every 4 hours. And that means I was getting by on 1.5 hours of sleep per day, and I did this for 2 months in order to complete a project on time. It was ridiculous, and this kind of thing is not sustainable, and I have many times I burnt out, and I had to go on a sabbatical, I had to go and recover, and it's not a healthy way to go on. And so I thought to myself, how can I improve and increase my my capacity for animation production? What I felt I needed was to increase my ability. And so I thought if I got more education and more experience, then of course I'd be able to do more work. But the problem is we will never get more time. It's all good and well to increase your education and your experience, but what I learned was that there's something called the ability spectrum. And your ability is made up of your education and your experience. And what I learned was that if you increase your education, you also need to increase your experience at the same time. Otherwise, you become unbalanced. So if we have a new experience, for instance, doing something, we need to educate ourselves on what that actually means. And if we have a lot of education about something, then we need to get experience. We need to apply that education in the real world and get some experience using that. And that's how we keep ourselves balanced on the ability spectrum. So that's all good and well, but I still don't have more time. So I realized that what I really needed to increase was my capacity. I needed to work with greater speed, and I needed to work to a higher quality. And this basically will allow me to get more work done in the same amount of time, especially to a higher quality level. And this, of course, led to my discovery of the capacity spectrum. And your capacity for animation is made up of your speed versus your quality. And again, these two really need to be balanced. If you're very fast at animating, then maybe you should take some time out and work on your quality a bit more, and vice versa. If you can produce very high quality animation, but you're really slow, then maybe you need to take some time out and work on your speed. And as you work on these both and keep them in balance, then your capacity as a whole will rise, your capacity for animation. But I wanted to get into it a little bit deeper, and I asked myself, what is capacity? Well, the definition of energy is the capacity to do work. So I guess our capacity for animation is our energy level. And my quest really was to increase my energy. And looking into it scientifically, energy in the human sense basically is made up of four components. We have physical energy, we have emotional energy, we have mental energy, and we have spiritual energy. And I don't want to scare anyone off with the spiritual energy. I'll get into that a bit later, but just trust me for a few minutes. Go along. So what are these four capacities of energy that we have? Well, physical energy. This is the one we're all quite aware of. This is our quantity of energy, how much energy we have. And we all know that without proper rest and nutrition, we feel physically drained, and we're unable to perform pretty much any task well. And that's because our physical energy fuels all our other energies. Animating with low energy is torture. I don't know if you've ever tried to animate after an all-nighter or out late with the friends or whatever, but it really is torture. You're falling asleep at your desk and smearing your drawings, or double clicking on your mouse with your forehead because you just keep falling asleep. It really is just torture to try and animate without any physical energy. Emotional energy, well, this is our quality of energy. And we all know that our mood does affect our performance. If you ever had a fight with your wife or your girlfriend or your husband, your boyfriend, your mother, your father, your gardener, if you feel terrible, then you're not going to be able to perform at your best because your mood does affect the quality of your energy. As an example, you can have tons of energy, very high energy, but if it's all negative, then all you are is you're in a rage, and all you can accomplish is negative goals because you're very high energy, but you're also very negative. So that's your emotional energy. We have quantity and quality. Then we get into mental energy, and this is our direction of energy. This is our ability to focus on one task and direct where all this energy goes. And if our minds are restless, we will be unable to focus on any task. And focus is the only way to accomplish complex tasks, such as animation. You think about all the things that you have to focus on and keep in your brain in order to pull off a scene. You have the story and the storyboards and the character and the character's arc and the acting principles, in addition to all the animation principles, weight, timing, arcs, all these things. Plus, you have to think about the software that you're using to animate. You have so much to focus on that if you lose that focus, your capacity for animation will drop greatly. And finally, we have spiritual energy, and this is our purpose of energy. Spiritual energy can enhance all our other energies, or it can completely drain them. But if we feel that what we are doing really has a purpose, that will increase our focus, our mood, and the amount of energy that we bring to a task. And having a definite purpose is a secret ingredient for high performance. When we see someone who's really working just flat out and doing some great work, we say that person is working with a purpose. And here, of course, is the energy quadrant. So we can see that we have high energy, low energy, positive, and negative. And we can see that a combination of these four aspects give us different states of being. For instance, high positive energy, as we can see on the top right there, is the zone. If you are high energy and you're very positive and you're focused, you will be in the zone. Whereas if you're very high energy and you're negative and you're focused, you will be in rage. And be careful, that's not something you really want in the office environment. On the other hand, if you're negative and you're low energy, then that's depression. That's what is known as depression. We've all experienced that, hopefully not to any great extent. On the other hand, if you're low energy but it's positive, that's recovery. This is rest, this is sleep and dreaming. These are all very low energy but also very positive. So this is the energy quadrant, and I recommend that you maybe print this up and put it up near your monitor and try and think about what quadrant are you in as you go through your day. And if you're sitting down to do animation work and you're not in the zone, then see if you can boost your energy, or maybe you need to make it a bit more positive. Try and do some things that boost your energy to where you are positive. Why do you think studios like Pixar have ping pong tables and foosball tables, and they allow their employees to have fun? It's because they know that if they're high energy and they're positive, then they're going to do their best work because they're in the zone. So get up and do something to really boost your energy and to boost your mood. These four capacities are all interconnected, and they do all affect each other. And in addition to this, they all have three separate states of being. Now bear with me here, it's not going to quite make sense at first, but the three states of all of our energy are nutrition, stress, and rest and recovery. Now, before I go on, I just want to mention stress. A lot of people view stress as a very negative thing these days, and really there are two forms of stress. There is eustress and distress. Distress is the negative form of stress that we think of when you're stressed out. You're in distress. You're in over your head. Whereas eustress is something that maybe an athlete might use where he might stress his body a little bit or her body a little bit that will trigger it to actually grow and meet those demands that it's putting on it. So eustress is actually very positive. It causes us to grow, whereas distress is overstressing our body and doing harm. And of course, the easiest to grasp of these energies is the physical energy. We all know that too much stress without sufficient nutrition and recovery will cause us damage. For instance, if I go to the gym and I do 2,000 bicep curls with high weight, I will actually break down and destroy that muscle. I'm not going to make it stronger. I'm going to destroy that muscle. On the other hand, we also know that too much nutrition and rest without sufficient stress will also cause us harm. If you eat too much and you don't exercise, you will get fat. If you don't actually exercise at all, your muscles will atrophy, and bones without stress will become brittle and break. That's what osteoporosis is, and this is why astronauts, when they come back from being in space for a long time, they actually have to go through physiotherapy because not only have their muscles atrophied, but their bones have actually leached calcium, and they need to be replenished through stress and nutrition. So we know that too much rest and nutrition without stress is bad, and also too much stress without rest and nutrition is bad. We understand this with our physical capacities. We understand if we do this to our bodies, there will be detriments, yet we ignore it with our non-physical capacities. If we fail to exercise our physical and our emotional, mental, and spiritual capacities, then they will weaken and they will shrink. On the other hand, burnout is the repeated overstressing of one or more of our capacities without proper nutrition or recovery. Every time I burnt out, it was because I was overstressing one or more of my capacities. I was working all night, every night, for weeks on end, with very little rest and recovery, and without proper nutrition, both physically, as well as mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And the end result is burnout. And I'm sure we all know at least one friend who's burnt out. If we ourselves haven't burnt out, it's very common in our industry because we don't take care of our capacities and our energies. We don't replenish ourselves. So in order to avoid burnout in any of our capacities, what we need to do, because we know that these demands are going to be forced upon us, we need to train our capacities just like we would any muscle. In order to train one of these capacities properly, we need a scheduled program of, guess what? Nutrition, which is taking in the fuel that can be used to develop ourselves, and this is roughly 30% of the time. We also need stress, which is any time we push ourselves outside of our comfort zone. That's a very important word, is comfort zone, because we don't want to go too far outside of it, but we want to go far enough to where it does slightly stress us out and we do have to grow. But this is only 10% of the time. And then rest and recovery. Rest and digest, as I say, because this is when we switch off and we just digest our nutrition and we apply it to our stressed areas to strengthen them. Okay, this is when we take what we've ingested, whether it be physically, mentally, or emotionally, and we actually digest it and we apply it to the area that has just been stressed out. And this is roughly 60% of the time should be in this phase. Now just a quick breakdown of the phases of energy and how they apply to each specific energy. Physical energy. Nutrition for us physically is, of course, food. Stress for us physically is exercise. Anytime you do something that is outside of your comfort zone physically, that is exercise, that is stress. Rest and recovery is, of course, rest and relaxation. Mental energy. Nutrition for us mentally is knowledge and information. Anytime you read a book or anytime you take in any knowledge or information, that is feeding yourself mentally. And stress mentally is application of that knowledge. It's actually getting experience. This is your education versus experience. Rest and recovery for our mental energies is meditation and relaxing. And I don't mean that in the burning candles and chanting sense. I just mean sitting back and really thinking about what you've done or what you've learned. And just on mental energy, we know just as we eat too much food and we don't exercise makes us fat, so too much learning without application and experience will make us fat mentally. It will actually make us mentally slow because we're obese mentally. We've taken in all this knowledge and we haven't exercised it. And so we have this great wealth of knowledge that can't move in any direction because we're so overburdened with this knowledge we don't know which piece to use when and where. So you need to stress that knowledge and apply it in real life so that way you can recover and digest it and figure out where it fits into your life and your active plan. Moving on, emotional energy. Nutrition for us emotionally is connections and experiences, friendships, relationships. These kind of things feed us emotionally. And same thing, if we go out into the forest and we see a baby deer, maybe we feed the baby deer out of our hand, that feeds us emotionally. That's an experience that we can draw on later. Maybe during a big deadline we can close our eyes and we can go back to that happy place, I guess. If you're a hunter, maybe killing a deer would feed you emotionally. Maybe that's an experience you really want. I'm not judging anyone. Stress for us emotionally is, again, anytime we're outside of our comfort zone. Ups and downs, problems that we might face. Anytime things don't go quite as according to plan, that's stress emotionally. And it's good for us if it's within reason. But afterwards we need to rest and recover. And emotionally, laughing, calm, peaceful atmosphere, these are the kinds of ways that we rest and recover and digest emotionally. Spiritually, we feed our spiritual drive through goals and dreams. When you have a purpose, it's because you have a dream. Martin Luther King had a dream. He had a purpose for being, and that was his spiritual nutrition. And the stress is working towards that goal. Once you get on the path to trying to achieve a goal, you realize how much you lack to actually achieve that goal, and that stresses you out. But guess what? During your recovery phase, you will actually develop those skills mentally, emotionally, and physically to pursue those dreams, those goals. So feed yourselves with goals and dreams, stress them out by working towards them, and then meditate on your progress and relax. So back to our CAP, our animation CAP. We now know that we have these capacities, and each of these capacities needs to be phased through their different phases, but what areas do we focus on for improvement? Which capacities do we need in our everyday job? How do we figure this out? Well, we figure this out by crossing the spectrum of ability and capacity. And this allows us to aim, what I call aim, which is the animation intentionality map, your production target. If you cross the speed and quality requirements of your project with the education and experience requirements of your project, where they meet in the middle is your target. This is what is being expected of you at work. And at the same time, if you cross your speed and quality abilities with your education and experience abilities, where they meet in the middle is your target. That is where you are at in your animation abilities and capacities right now. And if these two targets are misaligned, if what production and your job is requiring of you isn't on target with where you're at, that will stress you out because you are outside of your comfort zone. And that will tell you, for instance, if you're very fast and very experienced, you're in the lower left-hand quadrant here, but if the production you're on requires you to have high quality and a great education of the principles of animation, you're going to need to increase your education and your quality in order to meet that target, because right now you're sitting below and to the left of the target and it's above and to the right of you. So you need to re-aim by increasing yourself in quality and increasing yourself in education. This is a great little tool that I discovered in my animation, and it's helped me really meet incredible deadlines. I know you may have heard it in my last animation tutorial, but I recently finished a contract where I had to produce 45 seconds of animation in 8 days. And I did this because I realized that we were really high on the speed and really high on the experience, but quality was not nearly as important, and neither was an education of the basic principles of animation. They were necessary, but they weren't what was being stressed. So I needed to shift my focus away from quality and away from education and more towards speed and experience, and we got it done. I only had to pull one all-nighter in order to pull that off, and I'm quite proud of the animation as a result. So I recommend you print this target out as well and figure out where you sit on your aim and also where production would like you to sit. Or if you're trying to get a job at a different company, if you want to work for Pixar and they focus really on quality and education, not so much on speed, whereas you're very fast but you can't do the quality, then guess what? Now you can see exactly what you need to work on to get to your dream job. Now I'd like to take a minute to have a sip of coffee, and then I'd like to talk about on-the-job training, because I hear this a lot. I've been working in the industry for 14 years now, and I hear a lot of people say I get on-the-job training, and I personally, I'm self-taught. I didn't go to school for animation, and I'm tempted to say I got on-the-job training, but on-the-job training is a myth. Okay, it does not exist. And if we think about it, this makes sense because we're professionals, right? And if an athlete didn't show up for practice, but he merely showed up to the game and decided he was going to train on the playing field, we wouldn't call him a professional athlete. We would call him an amateur. If he thinks that he's going to practice on the playing field with his teammates against an opponent when they're actually in the game and this is playing for real, then that's an amateur. And if you do not have a structured program of self-improvement in animation outside of work, outside of school, then you are an amateur. And you always will be an amateur until you decide to practice off the field. You need to have a regimen of training outside of work and outside of school. If your company provides it for you, that's great, but it's not their job. Their job is only to provide the game, the playing field. That's where you actually show off your skills, but your skills need to be developed in some kind of extracurricular structured training program. Otherwise, you are an amateur. And I'm telling you that the industry is filled with professional amateurs. But these are not the guys who work at Pixar, and these are not the animators that are in demand. Do not be a professional amateur. Do not trust in on-the-job training. I'd also like to take a minute to talk about natural ability, because I hear a lot of people say, oh, he's a natural, oh, he was born with that. And I'm here to tell you that natural ability is a myth. Okay, this is something that people said of me all throughout my life. I left high school at 16 and was accepted to university. I was teaching university at the age of 17. By 18, I was training the Sydney Police Force Forensics Department, and at 20, I was an animator for Walt Disney. Everybody said, oh, he's a natural. But that's not true. It was not a natural ability. I was not born animating. The same as people are not born with a natural ability for pole vaulting. That's just ridiculous. We know that people aren't even born with a natural ability to walk. It's all a developed skill. And that's all animation is. And there's merely a natural tendency towards high positive energy, which brings with it high capacity. If you can hear it in my voice, I naturally have high positive energy, and that brings with it high capacity. Because I approach everything I do with high energy and a positive attitude, I also have focus and determination. And if you do that, then you will seem to have a natural talent for anything. Because that's all it is. High energy, positive attitude, focus, and determination are high capacity. The good news is, if you were not trained with this, you can train your natural disposition through habit and ritual. I know what you're thinking. How can we train our natural disposition? I was born with it. And especially if you're negative naturally, then you're probably going to be negative towards what I'm saying right now. Well, we control our thoughts. And if we force ourselves to be high positive energy for 30 days, that will become our natural tendency. But how do we do this? How can we actually control our thoughts when they seem so out of control? I woke up this morning and I didn't feel like getting out of bed. Is a common, excuse that I hear all the time. I can't control how I feel in the morning. Well, have you ever gotten out of bed and you just couldn't wait to get out of bed? You actually woke up before your alarm clock, you breezed out of bed and you breezed through your morning ritual, whatever it was, brushing your teeth, brushing your hair, eating breakfast. You just breezed through it and you showed up to work or school and you just had all the energy in the world. Well, what was the difference from when you woke up and you couldn't get out of bed? Oftentimes, you wake up with the most energy when you haven't slept very much because you're so excited. You actually have a purpose. You have a goal. If you have a purpose, this is where spiritual energy and positive energy in general comes in. If you wake up and you have a purpose, you will spring out of bed and you just won't be able to wait to get on with your day. I'd like you to try an experiment for me right now, and just bear with me as you do this. I want you to clap your hands and just go, yeah, all right, let's go. And you'll probably laugh at yourself, and that's great. Just do it. Just clap your hands, rub them together, and just be like, yes, let's do this. Let's go. How do you feel? Well, you've just consciously changed your mood through action. We learn this in animation and acting, that if we try and express something through our body, we will actually force ourselves to feel it. If you give me a big smile right now, if you smile at your monitor and you try and think about how crappy your life is, you can't do it. Because you're smiling, and that smile is actually sending a signal to your brain telling it to be happy. And if you clap your hands and you act high energy, you will be high energy. Just to drive the point home even further, we do control our thoughts. We control how we feel about a situation. I was on the train one day and I saw this woman with 3 children, and the children were just absolutely horrendous. They were terrible children, running around, screaming, fighting, pulling each other's hair. They were actually pulling newspapers out of people's hands. And I was seconds away from getting up and saying something to this woman and really giving her a piece of my mind, saying, how are you raising these children? Who's controlling these children? What is wrong with you? But I didn't have a chance to do that before she actually stood up and apologized to everyone. They'd just come from the hospital. Her husband had just died, and she didn't even know how to tell her children that they no longer had a father. Now, instantly, everyone on the train suddenly went from being angry at this woman and frustrated with her to sympathy, and people actually offered to carry her bags that she had with her, and people actually offered to help corral her children when she got off the train. Instantly, people's attitudes changed. But what changed beside their attitude? Nothing. Seconds before, everyone hated this woman, and now all of a sudden, everyone couldn't do enough to help her. And it's all in the attitude, and it's the way we think. And if we can control our thoughts and our attitudes for 30 days, make them high positive energy, for 30 days, that will become your natural tendency. Unfortunately, focusing on any one capacity for too long will cause all others to weaken and shrink. So if we focus on our physical capacities, for instance, if we focus on just our biceps and our chest, but we forget to work on our belly and our legs, we might have a really impressive upper torso, but we'll have a beer belly and chicken legs. So when we focus on one thing and we forget about all the others will actually weaken and shrink. In order to continually improve in all areas, you must train all areas on a rotating cycle that works them all in turn. This is what the U.S. military calls the band of excellence. And the band of excellence is basically this. Over time, you work your various capacities on a rotating schedule. So if you start capacity 1 on Monday, you start capacity 2, for instance, on Tuesday, and capacity 3 on Wednesday. As you work 1, you stress it out, and you begin to increase in your ability, and then you rest, and your ability begins to fall. And as you're resting that, you begin the next capacity, and you stress that out, and your ability rises, or your capacity rises, and then you rest that one. And as you're resting that one, you begin the next one, and that one begins to rise. Your capacity and your ability rises in that one. And this sets you on this gentle upward spiral of success, where basically all of your abilities and all of your capacities begin to grow over time. And it's little by little. These aren't giant leaps of improvement, but they're tiny little things that you can do every single day to increase your capacity and to increase your ability. So in order to stay competent and to continually build our capacity and our abilities, we must design a training program for ourselves. This training program needs to cycle each of our 4 energies through the 3 phases of nutrition, stress, and recovery. This works perfectly since each capacity is only in the stress phase for 10% of the time. So it's 10% stress and the rest is all nutrition, rest, and recovery. So that gives us 90% of the time to work on other capacities. So that's 10 capacities we could hypothetically cram into every single day and not stress out any one of them. But we don't want to do that. We want slow, steady increase. So by focusing on 1 or 2 areas for improvement every single day and then changing our focus to the next capacity each day, we will continually improve our abilities and increase our capacities. You must, I can't stress this enough, if you want to be a professional animator and not a professional amateur, you must design a program for yourself to remind you to perform short 5 to 15 minute exercises every single day. Just a simple reminder to improve in this skill or improve in this principle of animation, or maybe learn this technique in the program. Every single day is the key, though. You need to focus on a key animation principle and also a key capacity every single day. And you need to train both your abilities and your capacities in turn, neither over nor under stressing any of them. And if you listen to only this part of the presentation and you go off and you build your own rituals and your own habits, then please do this, because this is what's going to move our industry forward, and this is what is going to get you those jobs that you want in the future, whether it's your dream job or it's just a job to pay the bills. This is what is going to set you apart and set you above the competition when these companies are looking at show reels. So It is only by focusing on one or two areas for improvement every day, then changing our focus to the next capacity each day, that we will continually improve our abilities and increase our capacities. Well, I am proud to announce that through Animation Salvation, I have designed a program to do this for you. Every day, you will be emailed a short 5 to 15 minute exercise that focuses on a key animation principle and also a key capacity or energy. So you'll be increasing both your ability and your capacity a little bit every single day in a little reminder email that I'm going to be sending to you. And over the 3-month course, that's right, I'm going to be emailing you every single day for the next 3 months. And over this 3-month course, you will form the habits of daily training both your abilities and your capacities in turn, neither over nor under stressing any of them. And this will be automatic. You won't have to think about it. All you have to do is open the email and apply what you read. First of all, I want to say what this program is not. Okay, this is not a magic bullet to fix all your problems. There is no such thing as a magic bullet to fix all your problems, especially not in animation. It is hard work, and in order to improve, it takes hard work. This is not something for you to own. This isn't a book for you to put on your shelf. This isn't a badge or a certificate for you to put on your wall. This is something that is private, only to you, that you know you are doing to improve yourself. And this program is expert guidance. If you follow these exercises and do them every day, I guarantee you will see drastic improvement in your animation skill and capacity. You can't just join a gym and expect to get fit. You have to do the exercises and you will see results. Just do it. I highly recommend you just try it. And I call this the Guardian Training Program. Just as an athlete would train for his sport, so we animators must train for our art. One big dump of knowledge or activity is about as useless to us as a crash diet is to your long-term health. It's just not going to improve you. You can't do a whole bunch of exercise and then hope that you'll be fit for the rest of your life. You need to do little exercises every single day in order to keep you healthy for the rest of your life. And that's the same with our animation. We need to do little 5 to 15 minute exercises every single day. We need small, repetitive exercises that can be done daily over a longer period of time, something that won't stress us out so we can continue to do them day after day. There are 12 principles of animation as laid out in The Illusion of Life, and there are 4 main capacities that need to be maintained and increased through daily training. And these fold together nicely because I've designed this 12-week program where you will be emailed every single day and directed in short exercises to train a specific ability and a specific capacity. So, every 4 days you'll have cycled through the 4 main capacities, and every 12 days you'll have cycled through the 12 principles of animation. This is the Band of Excellence. This is your key to growing your capacity and your ability over time. I've been working on this for many months and I've perfected it over the last couple of weeks. The link is here, www.animationsalvation.com/guardian. And I really, really recommend you sign up to this. Even if you don't sign up to this, please, I can't stress enough, download this video and watch it over again and develop your own program of training. And do not become a professional amateur. Become a professional animator. And if you don't want to pay this, download this program. You can see the links down below this video. It should say download link. Download it and watch it over and over again to be inspired and to remember what goes wrong, what causes burnout, why am I lacking in this skill. Print out these slides. I'm going to put the slides up and I'll be sending you an email with a link to the slides as well if it's not on the page below me yet. And please just start training. And again, welcome to Animation Salvation. I hope to see you guys around here for a long time to come.